Well, we're doing something a bit different today. I have some friends with me that I'll introduce you to in a moment. But we do something every year called the Ping Pongathon. And today we're going to be hearing stories about why we do that. And so I'd love to introduce you to David. Can we welcome David?
G'day.
David is here from the Ping Pongathon. He is the Chief Pong Officer, which is my favourite job title of all time. I love it so much. And then I'd also like to welcome Christian. Would you welcome Christian here today? Christian is here on behalf of International Justice Mission. He's the Director of Engagement, and so Christian gets to go all around Australia engaging Christians with the mission of IJM, which is to rescue millions, protect billions, and make justice for the poor unstoppable. So that's what we're going to hear about today. So Clovie, we have had a long-term partnership with IJM for about 10 years. So 10 years ago, some women in our church heard about the reality that there is still slavery in our world today. And we as a church are not okay with that. So they got together and took part in something called Dressember, which is wearing a dress every day for the month of December. And there are still some ladies that do that, which is awesome. That has transitioned now into a church-wide partnership where we do the Ping Pongathon. And we do that as a whole church all together. So David, tell us a bit about Clovie's story with Pong so far.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, it's such a privilege and pleasure to be here. Ash, you guys have been ponging since 2017, and you've ponged every single year since then. So you lasted through the COVID years. In fact, my very first visit to Clovie was in March 2020. And I remember meeting Pastor Mike for the first time, and I went to shake his hand, and he's like, we'll do the elbow. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then we trafficked some toilet paper across the border to Melbourne, my colleague and I, because we're from Melbourne. So not many communities have done, I guess what I'm trying to say, not many communities have done the full period through COVID. Now, in terms of dollars raised, when you first started in 2017, you raised $3,374 for your first year, which is fantastic. But every single year, you've basically built again and again and again and raised more and more money to the point where last year, you raised $19,328, which is incredible.
Come on, guys.
Honestly.
Go.
You were the highest SA venue, because we have venues all across Australia, so it's very important. And I think you were the third highest across the country.
Come on.
You should be very proud of that.
So good.
And just finally with the numbers, Ash, since you've started ponging in 2017, you've raised a staggering $92,202.49. So you guys should be super proud of that. Yeah.
This year we're going to crack the 100, guys. Come on. Our goal is $20,000 this year, new record. Let's do it. So, Christian, can you tell us a little bit more about IJM and what the reality is of slavery in our world today?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Ash. Good morning, Clovie. So good to be with you here. And on behalf of IJM and the people we're trying to protect, just a heartfelt thank you for the partnership through December, through Pong. It is quite remarkable. I found out just before the service that the first Australian IJMer actually came to Clovie about 10 years ago and spoke. Amber Hawks, I'm not sure if any of you were around and remember her, but how cool is this that Clovie has actually had such a long-term partnership with IJM, particularly here in Australia. In terms of the reality, I don't think any of us would get it right if we were asked in a pop quiz, is slavery bigger now, or is it larger in the times of William Wilberforce? Now, the reality is it's actually many times larger than it was a few hundred years ago. There's an estimated of 50 million people that are held illegally in slavery today. Slavery is illegal everywhere. And there's many more people that are living outside of the protection of a working justice system, meaning they're particularly vulnerable to exploitation and slavery. If you're newer to IJM, to understand the mission a little better, we need to go back to where it first started with a man named Gary Haugen, who was the lead investigator in 1994 into the Rwandan genocide. So he was sent over there by the UN to investigate what was going on. And he was visiting all these different churches where people had fled to and were brutally killed. And he was seeing at the time there were all these incredible Christian organizations, missionaries that would go overseas and preach the gospel, Christian organizations that were sending aid and food and were sponsoring villages and children. But there wasn't an organization that was addressing the issue of violence. And so that's where he then went back home to the US and started in 1997 what's known as International Justice Mission. And one of the first cases he took on was a case in the Philippines where a woman had been assaulted and by a son of a notorious police captain, meaning that no one wanted to take on the case for fear of repercussions. And so he went over there, did some investigations, collected all the paperwork, all the evidence for the case, and passed it on to the police and asked them, what do your laws say that you meant to do with this? And so it took them a few weeks to go through it and actually arrest the son of the police captain. So even in places where there isn't a particular system that is working, he actually saw a case like that going through the system. Now, if you fast forward to today, 2025, IJM's the world's largest anti-slavery organization across the globe. We work in 19 different countries across 29 different field offices, and really addressing police abuse of power, violence against women and children, and what is known as modern slavery with all its different layers. And the one thing I actually really love and what fascinates me about IJM is they have this theory of change, meaning that if you can enforce the laws, slavery is illegal everywhere, if you can enforce the laws that then deters criminals and sees people protected from violence. Now, a theory is like nice to say and it's easy to recite in front of all of you, but IJM received a grant in 2006, so 9 years into operating, to go into Cebu and do something about the issue of child trafficking on the ground. And they were sent in with the mission, can you measurably reduce the prevalence of violence and slavery by 20%, which was a huge undertaking because at the time no one was really measuring this. We were rescuing people, we were putting perpetrators behind bars, but no one was actually measurably reducing it. So in 2006, they did what was called a baseline study. They measured how large is this crime. They started doing the work, which is partnering with local authorities, with the police, doing lots of training, lots of awareness, great equipping on the ground, but then also working with the court system, making sure that the system functions and people are held accountable, and then also setting up great aftercare for victims of abuse. And they did the work for 4 years and went back to measure in 2010 to see, did this work have any effect? And remarkably, the 20% wasn't reached, but they saw a drop in violence and slavery of 72%.
Wow.
Which is unheard of at the time. So the Philippine government actually asked IJM, would you come to Manila, would you come to Pampanga and do this again? And there they saw a reduction of 78% and 85%. And that's what we're trying to do all across the developing world of building up a justice system that then holds people who traffic other people, holds them accountable in a measurable way. Because the greatest story, and I'm sure we're about to share a couple of stories, is actually the ones that we don't have to tell because people are protected.
Yeah. So David, through your work with Pong, partnering with IJM, where are you seeing the stories of freedom?
It would be my pleasure and privilege to share a couple of stories. And I'll start with a story that is a story of protection, of prevention. So I was in Kolkata, India, earlier this year in March for a couple of weeks doing some project visits. And we were visiting a project that works with women that live and are from the a red light district in Kolkata. So some context, Kolkata is in the very northeast of India. It's right next to the Bangladesh border. And it's actually one of the most trafficked areas in the whole world for a couple of reasons. One, people get trafficked, mostly women, into Kolkata. And then from Kolkata, women can often get trafficked to other parts of India. And the state in which Kolkata sits in West Bengal is one of the poorest in India. And so what this project does is it's all about protection and prevention. So it works with women high school age, from high school up, to ensure that they're protected from trafficking. So they ensure that they stay in school. They have an incredible team of social workers, Christian social workers, who love on these girls. They do job skills training. They do English classes, Bangla classes, which is their local language, basically showing them what a life of hope and freedom looks like, but also what it doesn't look like. What do I mean by that? I mean, they talk about trafficking. They talk about what exploitation looks like and what things that they need to look out for. And so I spent the morning in the centre, which is literally in the heart of this red light district. Now, I said they live and are from the red light district, and I wasn't joking when I said that. So it's not like a red light district that you would maybe think with, bright neon lights everywhere. It's essentially a residential area, and it's the largest red light district in India. So people are living on the streets, living in homes, and then there are nefarious activities happening alongside that. So we spent the morning with them, and one of the girls from the centre, she was just full of life, bubbly, very extroverted. And once we had finished kind of understanding their work and what they did, she wanted to take us around her neighbourhood. And so alongside some of the staff, we went and went into this place. And we'll call her Shanti, and maybe we'll put the photo up. This is a photo I took of her. Obviously, we want to protect her identity, and Shanti's not her real name. And walking through this neighbourhood, Ash, was probably one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had, because it felt quite oppressive, the environment. And the juxtaposition and the contrast of the hope that Shanti had versus the environment that she came from was incredibly stark. Now, Shanti's story is quite sobering. Her grandmother was actually trafficked from Bangladesh into Kolkata in the 1980s. And then she had her daughter, so Shanti's mum, in situation of slavery and exploitation. So she was effectively born into it. And her mum was often exploited, unfortunately, because that's all she ever knew. But thankfully was able to kind of keep Shanti from that environment, from that life. And now, obviously, Shanti being part of this program, she's protected further still. But I guess one of the memories that I have seated in my brain from that experience was seeing her interact with some of the girls in this neighbourhood. Girls from 3, 5, 7, 11, all through, as we walked, we probably spent, half an hour walking through her neighbourhood. All the girls would just come up to her. And so she is intentionally building relationship with these girls in order to help protect them as well. And so this is the kind of work that we get to fund, right? Incredibly powerful work. The second story, to contrast that, just really quickly share a story of rescue. So IGM do a huge amount of work in India and in Southeast Asia. You guys support both of these programs. And this story comes out of Cambodia. So in Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, there was a local community organisation that IGM does a lot of work with. They basically work with street kids to ensure that they're protected, and they look out for situations of exploitation. This little boy, we'll call him Mo, started coming to the program. It's like Sunday school. They run on the streets. They build relationship with the kids. They play games. And they noticed that Mo had really tattered clothes on. And so they gave him new clothes. And then the next day, he comes back and he's still got tattered clothes on. And they're like, Mo, what happened to your old clothes? And they said, oh, well, my mum took them because if I wear the new clothes, no one will give me money. And so obviously, alarm bells are kind of going on for the organisation. Oh, what do you mean? She said, oh, well, my mum makes me, go and ask people for money to beg. And so as they kind of did some more digging, they realised that, Mo would sometimes be up, sometimes 2 a.m. in the morning, this little 6-year-old kid asking people for money. And sometimes he would come and he'd have, just little injuries here and there. And he showed his little pinky one day. And they're like, how did that happen? Little cut on his pinky. Oh, because I didn't get the $3 US dollars a day, my mum would, smack me with a barbed wire. And so this organisation did a whole bunch of investigative work, followed him around to show evidence that he was actually doing this, and then worked with IGM to get his mum, arrested. Long story short, his mum wasn't actually his mum. So he was sold into slavery, and he had brothers and sisters that were all doing the same thing. There was 7 of them. Some of them were infants. So that his sister would carry a little baby brother around, asking strangers and tourists for money. And thankfully, he was obviously taken out of that situation. And they found, Ash, that there was actually correspondence from this lady that she was in communications to then sell little Mo and some of his brothers and sisters to another trafficker. So the timing of it was just extraordinary. You guys funded that work, 100%. Like, I can say that without a doubt, considering because you guys have been ponging for so long, you guys have funded that work, and this is why we do what we do.
So good.
Christian, what about you? Where are you seeing freedom as well?
Yeah, a story for me that comes to mind is a story of a Burmese woman named Tintin, which isn't her real name. Tintin grew up in Myanmar, which is the country right next to Thailand, Southeast Asia. And she had to pay for a large debt which was on her house, and she couldn't do it by a job that she had at home. So she was looking for a new job, and she went online and found this job ad in Thailand that promised great work, great pay, and accommodation included. And so she applied, got the job, then was taken across the border, but was taken by a broker, not into what she thought was promised to her, but was locked into a factory where she was forced to make these little jelly sticks, 1,500 to 2,000 jelly sticks a day that were then sold outside on the market. And there she was, one of 18 Burmese men and women that were forced to work there from 6 a.m. to midnight. If they didn't want to work, they were physically abused and verbally abused. If they got sick, they were locked into a room. And it was just this horrific scenario that she was in. Now in Thailand, where this factory is, we actually have a photo of the building from outside of what it looked like, these yellow gates. And I've actually been outside these gates 2 years ago, and what shocked me the most is that it's not this hidden away like warehouse somewhere in the middle of nowhere. This is in the middle of Bangkok, about a 15-minute drive from the IJM office. So this is just like a private building that is just sitting there in the middle of the city. So IJM has great relationships with what's called the Department for Special Investigations, the DSI in Thailand. And they are essentially kind of like the FBI, like they hold authority to even arrest crooked cops if need to. And they got a tip from someone about this factory that there was forced labor involved. And so they contacted IJM and said, we need to do something about it now. And they got together, went over to the factory, and they didn't have a search warrant at the time, so they didn't have authority to just like barge in. But so they just stood outside, knocked at the door, and rang the doorbell. No one was opening, but they just kept persisting, kept knocking, until one of the workers climbed out the window, over the gate, came outside, which then led the owner of the factory to open their gates, and 18 workers were released. Tintin was one of them. They gave testimony, and 2 of the traffickers were convicted of forced labor slavery, which is remarkable. But one of the 2 things that you are specifically a part of when you're ponging here, that's one is the rescue and the restoration of victims like Tintin. But then secondly, and that's the sustainable piece that you've been a part of for the last 10 years, is the reason why the DSI knew what to do with the tip they received, and it wasn't just another tip of thousands of tip-offs they received on that day, was they had received training over a number of years, so they knew exactly where to go, who to talk to, what the processes were, and that is something you've been a part of for a long time. And Tintin today is actually the leader of the Survivor Leader Network in Thailand. So she is one of the people that goes around, talks to not just churches, but even speaks to government. We have a survivor leader come every 6 to 12 months that we bring with us to Canberra, so that the Australian government is survivor informed and can be led by the right kind of voices when it comes to modern slavery. But this is the kind of work you're a part of. You're empowering people like Tintin to not just get rescued and restored, but then to also be an incredible voice and see change for the long haul.
By playing table tennis, guys. Like, isn't that just wild? Because I don't know about you, but when I hear these stories, when I hang out with David and Christian and I hear about the genuinely heartbreaking stories, those heartbreaking stories of these kids, these young people, of a woman's just trying to seek to pay off a debt, I feel overwhelmed. And when you say 50 million people, I'm like, what can I do down here in Adelaide? Like, there's not a lot that I can do to fix that. And I think it would be easy to almost just kind of feel too overwhelmed and put it in a box and go, we don't see it every day, let's not deal with it. And that is why I'm so grateful for Pong. Like, every year this is in front of us again. Yeah. Every year we're reminded this is not okay and we need to do something about this. And I can do something about it by playing ping pong. And I'm not even that good at ping pong, guys. Like, so David, why do you think that Pong has been so effective in mobilising Christians around Australia to do something about this? Yeah,
great question. I think I want to answer that by going back to Shanti, the first story that I shared. So after visiting the neighbourhood, we went back to the centre, and as we're kind of saying our goodbyes, Shanti kind of pulls me aside and says, David, I really want to say thank you. Because when we first got there, they understood our visit as we were funders. That's kind of how they knew, or why we were visiting them and spending time with them. So they knew that we were part of funding their work. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, it's a privilege and honour to be able to partner with you. And she kind of like, I'm not sure he really understands what I'm trying to say. So she kind of, really doubled down through a translator. She said, no, David, it's really important that you understand this, because I will be the first person in my family to go to university. And without you, like, it's my understanding that wouldn't be possible, right? And I'm a bit of a cry, Ash, and so at this point, I'm struggling, and it clicked for me. I realised,
I just let it out.
Yeah, that's right. I had a cry after. I kind of went to the adjacent room and I just kind of had some silent tears. But in that moment, it clicked with me in terms of the connection, the fact that I am part of, in a small way, but in an important way, I'm part of this story. I'm part of her story. And you guys are part of Shanti's story. Sometimes we can be tempted when we hear stories like this, like, wow, that's really powerful, but it doesn't really have anything to do with me. I'm here to tell you it has everything to do with you. If you've been participating as part of the Clovie community over the past 10 years, these are your stories. You are inextricably linked to these stories. The last thing that Shanti said to me was, please don't stop. And I think really, as I've reflected on that moment, she said that on behalf of the girls that are younger than her in her community, right? We are being a light in a very, very, very dark place. And when I feel overwhelmed, Ash, or when I feel like it's just too much, or what can I really do, I come back to those kind of moments and realize, yes, it is all worth it, and I have to stand in the gap. Because the reality is we have a choice, right? When we hear stories like this, it's binary. It's one of, we either do something or we decide that, no, it's all too hard. So going back to your original question, Ash, I think the reason why Pong works is because as people of faith, we are compelled to do something. When we hear these stories, we are compelled to do something. And the Pong is a very simple thing to do. Who doesn't like playing table tennis and raising raising money to fight one of the greatest evils on the planet, right? And you can go as easy or as hard as you want. You know, we have some crazy people all across the country that do the full 24 hours, and I think we have a couple here that did it. Maybe not last year, the year before. I remember meeting him.
It's been tackled.
Yeah. And one of the guys in the Central Coast in New South Wales, the way he thinks about it is he imagines his niece being the person, right, that he's kind of standing in the gap for. He makes it really personal. And for me, I have 3 beautiful nieces. And if I think about, okay, if it means that me funding one of these programs enables someone like Jemima to come out of a situation of exploitation, I'm going to do it, right? The money that you guys fundraise is restricted funding directly to the programs that IJM runs across Southeast Asia and India, right? And so it goes directly to the front lines combating this evil. And this is work that you get to partner with by, as Ash said, just very simply playing table tennis.
So good.
Such a privilege to have such a long-standing partnership with IJM. So, Christian, is there anything else you want to share with us before we finish?
Yeah, absolutely. 3 things. Firstly, we get the question a lot, like, how do you not get compassion fatigue within a week of hearing all these different stories? We like to say that the weight of the work isn't ours to carry. The weight of the work belongs to God, because He cares about people that are enslaved way more than we ever could. So we like to regularly just remind ourselves to give the weight of the work back over to God. The second thing is that the work of miraculous transformation within countries happens through people that have been miraculously transformed. And this is not just the people that are on the ground doing the rescues and doing the aftercare, but this is people like you that have had their eyes opened and that have been transformed by the love of Jesus and want to do something about the evil of slavery. And then thirdly, I would just say, you definitely, when you're ponging in a few weeks' time, make sure you do both. You hold the stories that you've heard here today with having a whole lot of fun together, because joy is the oxygen for doing hard things. And we need that for our program officers. If you ever meet any IJMers in program offices, they're the most joyful, loving, Jesus-filled person you'll ever meet, because they're constantly coming back of the place of transformation, but they also just have this joy that they carry. So make sure when you're ponging, it's not just all like heavy and we got to keep going because there's people enslaved. Like, yes, there's this truth, but also make sure that you're having fun as you're ponging.
I love that. Miraculous transformation happens through miraculously transformed people. Jesus has transformed me and transforming you and transforming us. That's why we follow him. And so we get to be part of his kingdom work. So church, as we commit to seeking God first this year, let's seek his kingdom. We're hearing stories of pockets of his kingdom work. Let's be part of it in a few weeks' time. So here's the practical bits. Get ready. September 20th to the 21st is when we are ponging as a church. We start at 12 p.m. on Saturday. We go till 12 p.m. on Sunday. As David said, you can sign up for a 3-hour shift. You can do double duty. You can do the graveyard shift, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Or you can play during the day if you want to sleep. That's fine. And so the key thing is to sign up to play, but also to spread the word. To spread the word in your circles, even if you're not able to play, whether that's because of physical limitations or you're not available on those dates, I invite you to be part of spreading awareness and raising funds. Something that has been so effective in our many years of ponging since 2017 has been that we go out to our communities and we tell our friends, our family, our neighbours, our colleagues, our sports club mates, we tell them that we're playing table tennis for 3 hours, 24 hours as a church, and they ask why. And we get to say, did you know there's more slaves like in the world than ever before? Did you know that? And you get to explain forced labour and some of these challenges and share some of these stories. That's why we got these guys here today. And you get to spread awareness. and raise funds that way. And what I've found, I've been ponging for a few years now, what I've found is it actually opens up doors for faith conversations. Like I'm just kind of asking them for some money, but it tends to end up opening the door for a faith conversation. They're like, why are you doing this? And I get to explain it's because I follow Jesus and he cares for the poor and the vulnerable and he wants to see them transformed. And it's my faith that makes me compelled to do something about this. So that would be my encouragement to us. Sign up to play. Spread the word, and spread the word now. You don't have to wait until the weekend that we're playing Pong. Slots are open to sign up. You get your own fundraising link. You can spread that out. We're going to resource you with stuff that you can put on your social media, posters that you can put in the lunchroom at work, like however you want to do it. But what I encourage you to do is to consider fundraising before you play. Like actually invite people to come and contribute before you play and turn up with some funds already raised, set a goal and keep setting that goal higher and higher. And I've seen great momentum when people turn up to Pong having already raised some funds. The other thing is you don't have to sign up alone. You can sign up as a group. So in your life groups or just gather a few friends and you can sign up and fundraise together as a group. Like I said, our goal is to raise $20,000 to crack our record again. And keep that top spot in South Australia. I'm getting competitive. I heard there's someone coming up behind us at the moment, so we got to do it. So let's do it, guys. Let's do it, church family. Let's get around this mission and the work that IJM are doing on the ground. Can we thank David and Christian for being with us today? Thank you, guys. Can I just invite you to stand where you are? We're just going to spend some time responding to the Lord and spending some time in prayer, considering how he might want to lead us. Lord God, I thank you that you are a God who restores. You are a God who cares deeply. That we saw that through you, Jesus, when you came here on earth and gave us the full representation of God. You showed us that you care for the poor, the vulnerable, the people on the margins, the people who are in chains. Maybe you're here and you're just getting to know Jesus. And I hope today you've had a glimpse of him. You've had a glimpse of seeing his heart, his care, his transforming work. And I hope today you've been able to take one step closer to the Lord and Savior who died for you, who died for me, who rose again and invites us into kingdom life with him. Maybe you've been following Jesus for a long time. And you've had a fresh fire in your belly today, hearing these stories. A fresh fire in your spirit. God, I pray you would keep that fire alight as we go through these next few weeks, sharing stories, spreading the word, signing up to play, and fundraising. God, may you bring in the funds. May you multiply the impact. We give the weight back to you, God. Thanks that you ask us to partner and participate. Free up our calendars, give us time and space to have those conversations. Let us be interrupted. Let us talk about why we do this. Give us the words to say and hearts that burn to see your kingdom come here on earth. Thank you for the incredible grace you've given each of us. This gift of grace. Thank you for the chains that you've broken in our lives. For the chains that you've broken around the world through the work of IJM. We ask for more, God. We ask for more chains to be broken for those 50 million people, God. Break those chains of slavery. And God, we pray a protection. We ask for more stories that we'll never have to tell because people have been protected. We give it all over to you, God. In Jesus' name, amen. We're going to sing now about that incredible grace that Jesus has given us.